son. Where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
Welcome, everyone, to the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. We're joined here today again by our good friend Michael Pridmore. What's going on, buddy?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Doing great. How about you?
Not too bad. When were you on? I feel like we talked about Christmas, but it wasn't at all near Christmas time, or was it?
It was right after Christmas.
Oh, okay. Damn, that long ago.
I think maybe like the week after. Yeah. Top of the year.
Jeez.
And here we are in the middle.
Time is just spiraling out of control. And speaking of time portals to another dimension, we've got an interesting topic here: the Large Hadron Collider. Now, this is something that I was always aware of, but I don't know if I've ever been existentially terrified by its capability.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Like, I know people have always had like this weird, spooky vibe around it's going to like open a black hole or something, but it never seemed that sinister, especially considering how public it was. Like, if it was sinister, would they be broadcasting out on international news 24 hours a day for a decade? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like something they would keep secret for like 50 years. Like
for a whole bunch of reasons. I get it. But,
yeah. Until like some big accident happened that alerted us all to its existence.
And I didn't do a ton of research on the history of colliders, but like tangential to the history of the Large Hadron Collider, this is like the reason that this one is special is not only because it's one of, if not the biggest scientific instrument in the world. It's that field is there. Colliders haven't even been around that long, and they went from like small scale things to this massive facility that, for all purposes, it's like it is literally changing shit. Like, it discovers stuff and they have to rethink how we were thinking about something.
Yeah, really. Yeah, with the like classical definition of physics and then quantum physics, it like really pushed it towards the quantum side, at least from what I'm able to understand about it.
super quickly. It was like the first couple discoveries, they were like, oh no, we need to, this got affirmed and this got affirmed, but this did not get affirmed. We have to completely rethink this. And I know it gets kind of weird, especially that's like such a speculative field in the sense that some laws are laws, but they're really still hypotheses. They're just laws as we know them. But right. They have behaved that way for so long, so we don't really question them. A lot of the stuff that this one is testing for is like the shit that nobody knows. It's only been theoretical until they had this device. And, after reading about all of that and like kind of understanding the context, I understood like why this was such a story. About it being built and about it turning on, and not just, people being afraid of it, but just scientists all over the world are like, finally, we can get some tangible answers.
Right. And one thing I had no idea it was involved with was the creation of the World Wide Web.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I came across that. Go on.
I should have looked more into it, actually, because there's so much about it. But I think it was like 1988 they started messing around with this stuff, and then we're just finding ways of sending particles at a very accelerated rate to where it essentially gave them the ability or like technical know-how to essentially create the internet as we know it now, with like sending information all across the world like almost instantaneously. And I didn't expect that when I was researching this either. It's like, oh, like for all the conspiracy or like weird stuff around it, everyone's like, oh, the internet's fine though. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally cool. That's unaffected. Well, we're not going to complain about that, because how else are we going to get our cat videos?
Exactly.
Important things. These are super important things.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I don't know how granular you got on shit, but what are your thoughts after? I don't know how much you knew about this before you read into it. I was like, I knew 25% of the story. And I'm not saying I even know 100% of it now, but I only knew a slim portion of.
Yeah. I just learned about, or I was interested in it just because of the kind of conspiracy theories around it, which I love. Like,
which were your favorite?
Just the opening a portal to a new dimension, or launching us into a parallel universe.
Yeah.
There's like some scientist that apparently worked there, and then he quit, but he was saying that like it turned our universe into like a Russian nesting doll of multiple universes colliding, and like everyone watches Marvel movies now, so we all know what that means at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Right? We have a full understanding of what that means.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it just sounds like the plot to Half-Life, the video game, at some point.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
Which seems exciting.
In the next season of Stranger Things or something.
Mm-hmm. And I think just people take that little bit from that and then just like extrapolate it even further to like explain the Mandela effect and like all this other stuff.
Finally, it all makes sense.
Like incongruent reality. Like, it's just so fun.
Did you ever see that thing? I remember this coming out maybe like 2010 or like early 2010s. It's like a video of that Bhagavad Gita statue in the center of CERN outside the Large Hadron Collider, and it's like people in robes doing a ceremony.
No, whoa, I didn't know about
it's
this.
Like, okay, so this came out, and this was like, people were like, oh my God, they're doing ceremonies, they're opening portals to hell. And then I guess it got debunked later, where it was just like a bunch of bored scientists or students there who were just like, we wanted to do a prank. So they did a prank. But for a while it was like, but again, this is one of those things where like of the things that I know about, this never made me feel, scared. For me, it's too high visibility. You got scientists from all over the world, all different types of backgrounds in that field, engineers. It's highly public. Would anybody be able to conduct a ritual there without some normal person being like, wait a minute, the fuck is this? This is a place of science, okay?
But it's pretty big. And it is underground.
It's like, I think it's a 3 mile diameter. It's like a huge, or 17 kilometer.
Yeah, it goes through like France and Switzerland.
It's massive. It's massive.
But talking about the ritual, that made me think like 2010 was when they discovered the Higgs boson, the God particle, as they call it.
Yep.
So I was hoping you were going to go in that direction with this ritual that just people are.
Well, I mean, that was probably one of the things that was said. The thing that was hot point at that particular piece of the Hadron Collider's history, it was like antimatter. That was the buzzword. Antimatter and mini black holes.
Yeah.
Those two things, like people were just saying them and nobody understood what the fuck it meant or like how this thing would do that. But, when the ceremony thing came out, that was absolutely a part of that conversation. They're doing this. It's antimatter. It's going to, flip our universe into a parallel reality. I don't know. It was just one of those things where it was like, I guess too, that fucking Dan Brown book, Angels and Demons, where they like find the antimatter and it's like that huge explosion in the Vatican. That was also like really popular at the same time. To me, it felt all too like, I don't know, played out. To me, this is just some nerd shit.
Yeah.
Like it's always felt like these nerds, they just love nerding and they built this massive nerd facility and they're never leaving.
Yeah. And of course, like no one understands the nerd stuff. So they're just going to like take their imagination with it.
Get
and actually they had to add like a what am I thinking? It's like a truth and myths section to the CERN website because of that book and how they
Oh my
essentially
God.
use that, just being like, no, we're not summoning demons to the Earth realm. You know,
We are not run by the Illuminati. No.
yeah. But yeah, it was fine. I was when I was doing research on this, I was trying to find really just like the craziest conspiracy stuff, and my YouTube algorithm is just ruined now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But
Yeah, I hear you on that.
But yeah, the mini black holes thing, yeah, that's something that they're like trying to do. And that was part of the like what propelled us into supposedly a different dimension, is that the CERN Hadron Collider created a black hole that our universe got sucked into, and then it plopped us out on the other side, and that's why everything's bad with the world now, or whatever. But I thought that was interesting, like the reality of that. Like if humans could actually create a black hole and just fuck ourselves so hard like that.
Well, but see, here's the thing. Like, all this stuff is so theoretical that we just don't know. Like, this thing is every day collecting data, discovering points, correlations that help them get a better understanding of like the shit that has only been able to be drawn on a chalkboard up until this point.
Right.
You know, is it possible? Yeah, for sure. But I'm more nervous about the facilities like this that all types of governments have all across the globe. Those concern me. This doesn't really concern me. I don't know, the higher dimensional nature of reality. I don't understand that, but again, that's a concept that doesn't terrify me, but I understand that maybe some people are absolutely terrified by that idea.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you could get stuck on the wrong timeline. Oh my God. How do I ever get back to the original timeline?
A great plot for a film.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
It hasn't been overdone at all.
yeah. So I guess, yeah, if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, it's a big collider. It collides single proton atoms at like near the speed of light around this 17-kilometer ring, and they hit each other, and they essentially try to recreate the beginnings of the Big Bang. And going into your point of newly discovered things, you know, there's all this physics and theory behind what would happen when they did this, and some of their first initial tests, these protons would collide, and essentially the idea is to break them down to their like smaller parts, like quarks and neutrinos. Gluons is another one I learned today. That's what keeps the shape of atoms. And they found that there was actually more stuff than what they hypothesized would come out of this collision. And that's where they're like finding these new like particles essentially from these experiments. And that's where like some of the mini black hole stuff comes in, because they're like, where did this come from? You know?
Yeah. And as like someone that works with industrial grade scientific equipment, are there time, like, what does it feel like when you see something that shouldn't be there, or like you run something and you expect it to go a certain way and it doesn't? What does that feel like?
Yeah, it's like like what could be doing this, you know, like what's in MRI specifically, like there's specific what we call artifacts that we might be able to recognize in certain ways, like different resonance properties of, say, blood, for example, compared to bone. You know, blood's pumping through the body at a current rate, but your bones and everything else isn't really moving. So you can see, as the images reconstruct, like little white dots kind of in one direction, kind of matching up to that.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of explanation behind it, but I have seen some things that we've really had to, like, I don't want to say bullshit, but just bullshit an excuse to like, well, I guess the magnetic field just wasn't, homogeneous at that one point. So we had some fold over of phase between the atoms that we expect to be in a certain place at a certain time. But, you can't really like tinker on that, when it comes to subatomic particles.
No, sure. And it's if we could see the electromagnetic spectrum, if we could interact with all the other waves around us, maybe it'd make understanding a lot of the anomalous shit that happens a little bit easier. But I remember reading a little bit about it. Like they build it, and then there was immediately an issue, so they'd like close it down for a while and then reopen it. To me, this is like the only thing I could think when I was watching the whole process of them building it is like, there's so many goddamn parts. There's so many parts. Like I understand that like an MRI is probably a million different pieces, but if you could break it down to like core parts, there's probably core system functions. Mm-hmm. And the things that regulate those system functions, right? Yeah, I'm sure this is probably the same way. It's just at a scale of fuck just to be able to see the subatomic shit. I don't know. It's just the combination of scales is just really disorienting.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the detectors for this sort of thing because it's in like nanoseconds that these things are happening, and they're measuring things that are close to like the Planck scale, which is the tiniest
known
word that we have, and it's like an explosion, they show the images of these collisions and it just looks like a firework.
Yeah. And
from what I could understand or see, it just have just panels of arrays around it where these subatomic particles will just pass through, and essentially that's how they get their detection of these things. But
yeah, no, sure.
Like,
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Let me see if I can find a picture of the inside, but
just the engineering behind that seems nuts.
It's pretty crazy. But again, if like you zoom out for a second and you just look at it, it's like a big old magnet. It's like a big old pressure controlled a pipe magnet that's just flicking particles. It's one particle. Like you look at the pictures too that they've taken of single particles, and you're like, all this work just so we can see that tiny little thing. Yeah. And it just tells us we don't know anything.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. And yeah, I was imagining these protons like a bullet in a gun, just like, how do you make a tiny little tube that's also filled with particles, Well,
and I think, let me see if I can find like the actual explosion chamber. That's not necessarily a picture of the actual equipment, but I was watching one of the videos. It was like a CERN. It was a video that CERN made. Oh, here's a good diagram. Let me share this. This is like a mediocre. Can't really see the fine detail, but
it's like I love our like biggest scientific machinery, and it's like ads everywhere. I love it.
Yeah, it's perfect. Got to pay for this fucking thing somehow,
Okay.
Oh yeah, and the dipole magnet. I saw a lot of. There was a lot of stuff I read about the dipole magnet. Let me just see if I can just go a little bit further.
I would imagine that's for like stability of moving the particle through.
That's not really a better picture. Man, one of the things I watched had a great little graphic of it, but it's like I don't know. It looks like a nuclear reactor. Like you can tell this is serious shit. And maybe that's another part of why people are just kind of terrified of this thing, because it looks scary as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks like some Star Wars death ray shit, and it just isn't. You know, like even after watching a bunch of
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, this is like what it actually looks like. It's what they see. But I'm pretty sure like this, all that represents this cylindrical area they're just like very highly sensitive metal plates that can detect the tiniest shift in or sensor for light. But it does. It just, it's just, the scale here is hilarious. They're trying to mimic the conditions immediately after the black hole, right? Just like a Big Bang, fractions of a second. And, at some scale, they're just crashing two celestial bodies into each other and seeing what's happening. Like this, what has always tripped me out about the subatomic portion of this existence is how much it looks like the universal perspective of this existence. Like just the particles and the vast amount of empty space and particles kind of just, interacting with each other, bouncing off each other. One thing I kept reading about is, I don't know if you read about this at all, but there was at some point in 2022, scientists detected something unexpected in our planet's magnetic field. It had what looked like what was a crack in it.
I was going to say the Kraken.
Yeah.
The name sounds so nefarious.
Yeah. So this is something that I came across, but I don't know if you know anything about this and if you can explain it.
Very, very briefly, what I understood about it was, like the Earth has magnetism, of course, and we are like a dipolar planet, the North and South Pole. And as we face the sun, that magnetism sort of wraps around, and the other side that's not facing the sun just sort of does its thing. And from what I understood from that was that there was like an intense solar flare or something about the sun's, I can't think of the right word, but it's
solar. They're solar winds or CMEs.
Yeah,
but
it I don't know. Did it like turn up and like kind of push our magnetism a little bit? And I had the visual in my head of the Kraken because it was like a circle on one side and like the strands of magnetism going out the other end, and just imagining this celestial Kraken.
I mean, kinda. It's metaphorically cracking us a new one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. I remember that. I remember that causing less alarm than people thinking this shit was going to start black holes. I remember like seeing that, but I guess in 2022 is like we weren't surprised about anything. Aliens could have come down and started fucking all of our farm animals, and we would have been like, well, whatever, just Tuesday now. So
yeah, honestly, that was around the time the government was like, yeah, we have UFOs.
Yeah, it was right around that time. So it honestly would have been better than what we got. So, but the solar winds thing, what I had read about all this was that it's debatable whether or not CERN actually caused this crack. But what they were worried about is that it's the first time it had ever been noticed, and the fact that we have a device that's doing something scientifically that's never been done at a scale that's pretty massive. But yeah, everyone's big concern definitely was the solar winds. And I think I was kind of annoyed, actually. A bunch of the videos I was watching about the Large Hadron Collider ended up just gravitating toward talking about solar winds. And though those are terrifying, I didn't appreciate you trying to tell me that the Large Hadron Collider was actually responsible for something the sun has always been doing and will continue to be doing at, rather different intensities, I'm sure, here soon. But there was also some conversation about, like, because there's this crack in it now, is this something that could A, worsen, or B, just become an issue into the future, the more dependent, like, they're dangerous, not because they're physically going to burn us, but they're dangerous because they'll take out all of our communications. They're dangerous because they'll disrupt what we know as life on this planet right now, and they're way more terrifying than CERN.
Right.
Like, honestly, the whatever we're doing under the ground, that doesn't scare me near as much as the fact that the sun is just like blasting us with.
And the fact we couldn't see it coming either. Like,
yeah,
it's a bit helpless on that end.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely we're hilariously underprepared for that, and I know that it's actually becoming a thing now, because one of the videos they talked about how during that same period of time there was a massive solar wind flare, and SpaceX lost like 40 satellites. But we have so much shit up there. That's the other thing, is like that has ramped up super intense very recently. Like in the scale of things, we started launching shit up into the orbit in like 1960s with, like, we were definitely launching a ton of shit up there, but it has really kind of ramped up and will just continue to with Blue Origin and SpaceX and all the other private space industry that is kind of developing now. But again, I'm still waiting for the CERN. Yeah. I'm still waiting for the CERN Kraken to wake up and be like, oh, you thought this wasn't scary? Here's a new black hole for you.
Right. No, there are so many satellites up there. A lot of people think, like, outside, like looking at the Earth, that it's just a little blue circle, but like,
not anymore.
We're covering it, man.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, it's Wall-E.
So much.
It's fucking Wall-E for sure.
Yeah. Like every GPS provider, every phone service provider, not even that now, like businesses, Amazon, Google, like,
yep.
There's so much up there.
Well, even fucking Starlink.
Yeah.
His whole idea is to have a gridded network of satellites that cover the entirety of planet Earth. That's it, like his expressed statement with that. And he's not the only person. Like you're saying, Amazon, I'm sure, has some weird fucking drone support satellites it's putting up there. But it's going to get interesting, especially the more dependent we become on these things and the more we kind of just, expect it as the way of life. Mm-hmm. Do you even want to go back to going to a store to buy your thing? Do you want to go back? Do you really want to go back to that? I'll take a solar blast to the face to not have to go back to that.
Exactly. Speaking of this, like, fragility of technology, just with CERN especially, did you come across how it got shut down in 2016? Yeah,
dude, they build it, it gets shut down because they had to fix a fucking major problem. Then they reopen it. And then I heard one time it shut down because of some fuckery, and then another time a couple years later they shut it down to do like a pretty serious upgrade.
Yeah.
That is now letting them do some of the more crazy shit. But what happened in 2016?
A weasel got into CERN and shut it down. Like, and this was one of the conspiracy theories I was hoping to like dig into.
Foiled by a weasel. Dang.
Like, apparently a weasel got in and like made something short circuit. I guess it was like,
chewing on some wires. Yeah.
Shut the whole shit down.
That is incredible.
So, like, yeah, just even like thinking of this as like a diabolical, like inhuman machine or something. Just a weasel can come in and just fuck it all up.
She's trying to make a nice, comfortable bed.
Right.
in this very important scientific facility.
A Swiss weasel.
That's also hilarious too, because it's like they probably had every security precaution possible.
Oh, I can't
And
imagine.
then on the final day, the guy comes up and he's like, all right, look, we could put the weasel traps in. And the guy's like, no, I don't think we're going to need it. We have turrets at every door. We've got armed guards. We've got everything we need. We don't need the weasel protection.
Yeah, or
Always get the weasel protetion.
like some security guard goes out for a smoke, and like as the door's closing, the weasel's like,
oh, that's amazing.
I can't imagine. But yeah, it took it down for like a few days. You know,
That
so
is fucking hysterical.
it has to be just like so fragile. Yeah, but also just talking about how many parts there are. You know, it's huge. Like,
Well, yeah, that's
how do you
one of the-
monitor this whole
and
thing?
it's like it's pressure. Like pressure has to be completely controlled in there for them to be able to get these things up to anywhere close to that speed. And like I just think as I'm looking down like miles and miles of corridor, who checked all those fucking screws? Like what a fucking nightmare. If one little thing isn't right about that whole thing fucking sucks. And like you're in Switzerland and you're like, sweet, let's do this. You press a button and there's a problem in France. Fuck. You know, that sucks, dude.
Yeah. As I was looking this up, I just saw this. This is just hilarious. Apparently, these problems aren't exclusive to the Large Hadron Collider because in 2006, there's a particle accelerator in Illinois. Don't know anything about that. No one's complaining about that one. But this line here just got me. It said, raccoons conducted a coordinated attack on a particle accelerator in Illinois.
Dude, what is it with woodland critters taking out the particle accelerators? Is that nature correcting itself? Nature's like, no, science has gone too far.
Yep, exactly.
We're shutting down this collider.
And like these things are giant refrigerators too. That's another thing. Like with all this equipment and sending particles at near the speed of light, that shit gets hot.
Yeah, sure.
And so like the entire, like you're talking about sealing the place up and being pressurized, like it has to be like temperature controlled too.
Yeah, definitely.
So what sort of warm-blooded mammal is like, let me go to that fucking cold metal place, you know, unless they had some intent.
I mean, that or they're just like drawn in. Like it's like a fucking, you know, a heightened sense of nature. They can sense a ripple in time, so they're coming to check it out.
They can sense
and then they stay for all the cool snacks that the scientists have, just like in all the drawers of all the
you know, they have the best snacks.
They got to have some good snacks.
Yeah. It's like Google times 2.
Easy. Yeah, for sure. It's like Google, but a respectable institution. This is just one of those things too, where it's like, nobody knows what's going to happen here. Like you got to, as a scientist, you really kind of have to have some balls to work there.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, on top of all just the general dangers, like equipment malfunction that results in a fire or an explosion or pressure explosion, some kind of like, you know, danger of working there, there's the possibility that you'll open a black hole. Like that's a level of scientific danger that I think most scientists will never, ever get close to.
Yeah.
It's kind of badass. Like every day they walk in there, they're like, yeah, I could end up on a different reality tonight. So,
yeah. And with that, like, it's theory right now, and they're kind of aiming towards this, which I'm sure you saw in a bunch of stuff you looked at, but yeah, they're like micro black holes.
Yep.
Is what theoretically could be created here. But the size of them, like a lot of people think black holes just huge, suck everything in, big sinkhole. But with the micro black holes, the way that they could possibly study them is that they only appear for like an instant. And there's this type of radiation that black holes give off called Hawking radiation. And essentially
After
just
Stephen Hawking, right?
Yep, that's the boy. And it kind of just snuffs it out in time. Now, when you get like a supermassive black hole, you have Hawking radiation, but it's just, you know, just
not
cascading
enough.
at that point. Yeah, not enough. But so it doesn't freak me out too much if they start making tiny black holes. in that case, if the theories are true, though, you know.
And again, like we just don't. This is the test.
Mhm.
Like so many things in our generation, we've been the test. Internet, we were the test. We were the test generation for that.
Yeah.
So why not mini black holes? You know,
Right.
fuck it.
Yeah.
Internet, we got around just fine. I think it's important to note here. I see a lot of people talking about this, and even in the videos, it wasn't clear. They haven't discovered micro black holes. They hope to discover micro black holes, as well as a number of other things. One was magnetic monopoles, which is just like something with magnetic properties, but only one pole, positive or negative. And again, they haven't discovered these things. This is definitely in the theoretical portion, but what they're hoping is that they can start to discover these things, because based on the math, the prevailing theory is that micro black holes would provide strong evidence for the existence of other dimensions.
Yeah.
Like, according to the theories, if they can discover these things and they behave like the theory suggests they behave, it would be a strong suggestion that there are other dimensions. Whether we can access them or not, I don't know. But I found that to be interesting in the sense that, like, that's a serious statement. Like, there's plenty of scientists who are now saying that, and now it's just a fucking game. There's the prevailing thoughts of particle physics in this, niche subset of what this is, and they need to find these things in order to be pointed in the direction of, like, which theory is the one that we adopt, which is the one that we advance, which is the one that we entertain more. I don't know. It's pretty cool. That's like subatomic shit. It's like when we discovered the atom, when we discovered how to use the atom. Like, that's kind of what they're doing here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where kind of what I was talking about earlier. When they collide two protons together, they expect to see something, but they actually see more. It's like, imagine launching an apple and an orange together. You would expect that there would be little bits of apples and oranges everywhere, right? But in their case, they're seeing like bits of banana. So they're trying to figure out where this banana came from. And one of the fun theories is, we just opened a black hole that sucked something out of another dimension
somewhere else.
And now we have more mass in our universe than we should.
Whoops.
Oopsie. Got bananas.
Got bananas. It's a banana reality. Now everything's bananas.
You just wake up one day and you have banana hands. And
it,
CERN is like, we're sorry. We're sorry.
Here's the thing. Would we know, though? Like, if we all woke up and it was a banana reality, we could be living in a banana reality right now.
Oh, my God.
You know what I mean? Like, if we all just woke up and everything was banana, we would just be like, nanners, here we are.
Yeah, right.
Did you hear anything? Did anything that you read or watched talk about gravity's rainbow?
Yeah, I came across it very briefly in one thing.
It was briefly discussed in a couple things I watched, but it was very short. Basically, all I got away from it is gravity's rainbow is a theoretical framework that attempts to reconcile quantum mechanics with general relativity. Its hypothesis is that the behavior of particles and fields is affected by the energy levels at which they exist. In the context of extra dimensions, gravity's rainbow provides a potential way to detect the influence of other dimensions on the behavior of gravity. As particles with any hidden dimensions, the energy levels associated with their gravitational interactions can be modified, resulting in a rainbow of gravitational effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, different wavelengths can experience different gravity levels. And I remember it being related to like a black hole, how time is different the closer you get to it, and light travels differently there. So you have like a spectrum of gravity based off anti-gravity.
Well, there's something interesting in so I guess like the hippie interpretation of a lot of this shit is everything is vibrating. There's wave energy at every layer of existence, zoomed in or zoomed out. The vibrational nature of existence is a thing that has been observed now scientifically. There's a weird thing in particular with sound. There's like a portion of the audible spectrum that the human hears that appears to us, even at lower levels, to be louder than other frequencies. It's called the presence range. It's between about 1,000 and even up to 8,000. But due to the construction and size of our ears, they captured those frequencies perfectly. Our ears are exactly that size. So we perceive those frequencies to be louder just because our mechanism is perfectly tuned for them. That's where the dominant characteristics of a human voice are going to lie. Animal noises, almost any type of important information that would be relevant to the existence of humans is going to have some harmonic shit going on in that portion of the spectrum. Now, sub-frequencies, we don't perceive them when at the same level, like actual decibel reading of frequencies in the presence range. We don't perceive them as the same loudness because those waves are much bigger and our ears are not perfectly tuned to hear them. We don't hear those frequencies at an equal loudness to presence range frequencies until those bass frequencies get a ton more energy. And based on what I'm reading here, or based on what I was watching and reading, is a similar concept, but in the terms of the types of frequencies, the types of energy is also dependent at the levels at which that energy exists. Bass waves at certain levels of intensity are not the same as bass waves at other they don't behave the exact same if you magnify the amplitude, double, quadruple. Not saying that there's any fundamental connection here other than it's wave energy that wouldn't shock me if we looked into like the visual spectrum, if there were like portions of the visible spectrum that our eyes are just tuned to see, so we perceive them even at lower levels to be more intense than visual information at an equal or same level. Again, like this isn't even like heady science. This is just basic physics of sound. This is basic physics of propagation of waves.
Good old acoustics.
And I guess the thing that I've always loved about sound and looking at it from that perspective is that it's the same shit. Particles moving through a space, and I don't know. To me, a lot of the stuff, it's super exciting to see what else they find and what other layers of connection and correlation exist further out into the universe, in the ever expanding vastness of space. What more we find out about that tells us more about the subatomic particles. Again, just the connection between zooming all the way in or all the way out. It's the same shit. The same things are keeping us in motion. The same things are making things take shape and form.
Yeah,
it's just at a level, what scale?
Right. Yeah, like a electron spinning around a proton, and then like this moon spinning around the Earth, and us spinning around the sun.
Yeah, planet spinning around the sun.
Going out, and then yeah. The parity is interesting between as you zoom all the way in and out. Yeah.
Well, and again, just like even looking at all the pictures of the collided particles, it's like it just looks like space. I don't know. I'm not. It doesn't necessarily need to be anything more than just an adorable observation that I'm making. But,
no, I think you're definitely not alone in that either. Like there's, especially like, looking at like neurons in the brain, you see like pictures of it, and if it's colored just right, you would think it was like a constellation or one of those like big gaseous like vistas you see of like some distant galaxy. And I think that's what's interesting. Seeing stuff like this too is like it's familiar, but in a weird way, like where you wouldn't expect it to be. You know, it's nothing. I've never seen two atoms collide, but looking at that, it's like, oh, I feel like I've seen this before.
It's not as foreign as you might think.
Exactly.
You know, I just the you know, I don't know. For me, I've always kind of seen some kind of correlation between the concept of God or an architect and math. And I feel like math is one of the most interesting ways we found to interpret the language of the creator, whatever that is. And that's why we see the same types of math, at least on this planet, but definitely out into the solar system, into infinity. We see a lot of the same mathematical patterns that repeat, the same, in particular on this planet, the proportions of things. And I don't know how heady you've gotten to with like cymatics or the visualization of vibration. This is some heady fucking shit. So cymatics is, again, in its form, very simple. It's just the visualization of wave energy.
I've seen some stuff like this with the folks who work in ultrasound with me.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
that's what ultrasound is.
Mm-hmm.
It's using sound to visualize something, and this is the actual visualization of sound. So you'll kind of see up here in the top right, you'll see a couple different notes that are being played, and that's what, if you could see sound in its true form, sound is 3D. It's not this flat thing that you experience. It's from every sound source is emanating a 3-dimensional image of that wave vibrating or resonating through air, in our case, or water, if you're a dolphin. But I'll come back to that because there's a really interesting. Okay, right here you go. So there's a couple people who have done a bunch of pretty in-depth analyses of different cymatic shapes and the different ways to create them. And there's a lot of correlation between a lot of ancient and indigenous sacred artwork and nature, patterns that repeat in nature. You'll see this turtle shell on the left. Excuse me, right side, you'll see the turtle shell. And on the right side of that turtle, you'll see a plate in the shape of a shell that's being resonated to specific frequencies. Lo and behold, same pattern. So I'll go back to this other one. These are just regular notes. A2.
Yeah.
B2. That's what that note looks like. Looks like stained glass. Where do you think they got that idea from?
Yeah, it definitely makes me think of like sacred geometry.
This is where it came from.
Wow.
I'm not even exaggerating.
Incredible.
This is where it came from. The argument has always been around, what did the ancient cultures know about the vibrational nature of existence, which, according to modern humanity, that happened in the 60s. In the 60s, when we discovered atoms and how to observe atoms, that's when we started to form the idea around the vibrational nature of existence. But every culture on the face of this earth has this shit as a part of their culture. If I can find a picture, I'm sure if I keep scrolling down, of a mandala,
Yeah.
and you look at a mandala and one of these, it's the same thing. That's where they got that from. Okay, and so this is not necessarily to prove anything other than vibration is the crucial component of existence in this reality. It is the force that allows things to take shape and form, and everything has a resonant frequency. Resonance is a whole other fucking thing. Rabbit hole we could get down.
Yeah.
Resonance is there's some very strange physics of sound shit. They're the people that get really deep into cymatics are also the kind of people that'll be like, you can cure diseases by bombarding your body with this frequency or these combinations of frequencies at these amplitudes for this duration of time. And there's Like there's been some people who have done some very crazy things. There's outlandish claims that they can zero in, and this is not even science fiction. Like this, they're actual real scientists doing this right now. They're trying to analyze tumors, figure out the resonant frequency of the tumor, and then bombard the tumor, the cancerous tumor, with a sound wave that is that it's going to resonate it and shake it in a way. It's actually incredible. Like the scientists that are advancing it are just doing it on all different types of cells, and you'll see it. They'll bombard it with its resonant frequency, and the cell just dissolves. It just shatters. It's the same concept as when like an opera singer hits a high note and it breaks a glass.
Yeah,
that high note is the resonant frequency of that glass, and she hit it and bombarded it at the exact right amplitude, and the structure could not continue because it was resonating with such ferocity.
Similar to that, there's a brand new method of drug delivery in the body right now. It's called microbubbles. Have you heard about any of this?
No. What is this?
So say I want to deliver some drug like directly to your brain, but I don't want it to go anywhere else in your body. I can give you a pill where these molecules are surrounded in tiny little bubbles. And when they reach the target area, your brain, we can sonicate with an ultrasound machine at a certain frequency. Pops the bubble, delivers the drug. It only goes to that target area.
Dude, you see what I mean? This isn't crazy fringe shit. Like this is, their app. It's just physics of sound, physics of I keep saying sound because that's what I know, but physics of vibration. It's very basic, simple principles.
I think in physics they call it like acoustics classically.
Yeah, sure.
But same, yeah.
So this is an interesting thing. This comes from like this really hippie science experiment, but basically the thought was, how do we communicate with the smartest known animals on planet Earth? And of that short list of animals, dolphins are high on that. They've always been a very intelligent species from humans' perspective, and a lot of humans work with them. So they started working with these dolphins, and they were recording the sonar, the squeaks that they were doing, to kind of understand, see if they could encode messages in sound. And ultimately, what they discover is not only can they encode images and sound, but as they're hitting sonar and speaking with each other, they're holographically seeing something. So this picture is an image, the cymatic image. So they recorded the dolphin talking to its trainer, and then they played that recording on a plate, and this is the image that vibrated out of that. And that is a 3D image in sound that the dolphin took with the clicks and pops of its sonar. And a bat sees shit the same way. But they're seeing something. But they're not seeing something. They're throwing waves out there, and they're listening to the reflections, and based on the reflections, a holographic image is being created in their mind to where they know what that is, and that's a distinct image. So another thing they did in this test, where they threw different shapes at the bottom of the pool and did some training with these shapes, and after playing the recording with the shapes, you could differentiate the shapes on the cymatic plate using the recording of the dolphin. And then they could take that recording to other dolphins and play the sound for square, and the dolphin at a different park, completely different set of dolphins, would go pick up the square from the bottom of the pool.
That's wild.
The encoding of information, of a message, of a rather detailed message through sound. It's all vibration. It's like vibration is the key to this existence. Like the vibrational nature is something that we ignore, but no other culture ignored it.
Or at
Every
least, like,
other culture
at
had a
least consciously
component.
ignore. Like there has to be some biology there, subconscious things going on. And before I forget it, I just want to say I love how similar that picture looks to like the classic Bigfoot photo.
Yeah, dude, it actually
Like, that
is
was my
very
first,
Bigfoot. Yeah, no, dude, you're
huge
totally
Bigfoot
right.
vibes on this.
I should have just said it was Bigfoot, and they discovered Bigfoot.
Dolphins see Bigfoot.
Yeah, seriously.
But no, I think, yeah, like there's some evolutionary things there that could even be subconscious, to how we perceive things, like just everything's a wave and our brain makes sense of it, just like in a dolphin's brain, or,
Yeah, no,
with bats
absolutely.
and echolocation and everything.
Well, it's like if you got an ear infection, you might have vertigo. Because we need to hear the reflections of the space around us for us to be able to make sense of it in our brain. If we lose that ability, we lose our balance. Right. Even if we're not moving, even if we're just sitting still. If the reflections that we're hearing don't line up with the space that we're seeing, we'll get sick.
Right.
I don't know. To me, it's one of those things where it's like there's so much of this existence that is going on around us at all time. If we had the fucking glasses, maybe the IVR will have this, where you can see all the different rays or vibrational information happening around you. But like if we could see the sound that was happening around us, it would be horrifying.
Oh, terrifying.
Like it would be fucking, if we could see the micro or radio wave energy around us, that would also be terrifying.
Especially in like a big city. Yeah.
There's no escape.
Oh,
here's a question. What level of concern is that for you? As someone who spends a lot of time with a very big magnet.
Like, am I concerned about the things I can't see?
Not necessarily. Are you concerned about any possible long-term health effects from being close to that much energy?
Yeah, I thought about, the more I've learned about it, the more I'm, just kind of like whatever. But also, I've been in the scanner so many times, I'm like, can't really do anything about it now.
Yeah. Sober.
Yeah, but when it comes to magnetism, I'm not that worried, because all we're doing is just, the idea is atoms are spinning in a random state all over the place. They're just, tumbling in every direction, and we just tell them to go one direction just for a second. And, you can do that with a strong enough magnet and tear yourself apart like Dr. Manhattan, but those types of magnets aren't big enough for a human to get in. And like, the magnets we use, for example, can't get that strong.
Yeah.
But there are some things that have happened. There's a thing called peripheral nerve stimulation. And I thought about learning more about this at one point until I just realized I'm not a physicist and kind of dropped it and continued on with my life. But there are certain sequences in certain cases, and I've experienced it myself, where it's almost like it just triggers your nerve to fire. Like, I remember one time it happened and I was trying to like stick it through just because I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's just uncomfortable, but I like kind of know what's going on. But it felt like my stomach was like moving back and forth, like on the inside. Like every time the magnet sound would come on, it'd be like like your whole body like tenses up.
Yeah.
And then lets go.
Like a TENS machine.
Yeah.
Electrostimulator,
A little bit like that, yeah. And I had wondered after the fact, I was like, could I have knocked something loose? Or,
no, you were just receiving wireless signals, bro.
Exactly, yeah. Or, yeah. But no, I'd say like with MRIs, I did have like one old person try to tell me that it has radiation, and I'm like, nah. And
yeah.
And he was like, what about electromagnetic radiation? I'm like, it is a magnet.
Yeah.
But you're good, like it's FDA cleared at least, but if you trust the FDA, I guess. But yeah, that is a thing though. But
And like what's precaution? Like you're not in the same room. You're in a separate room. Is that room lined with lead? Like what is the level of
copper wiring?
Copper. So yeah, it's like Faraday cage.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
Copy.
So the one I use, it's at 3 Tesla, which is 3,000 times the Earth's gravity when it's at full blast.
Yeah.
Not like what was it in Dragon Ball Z? Remember when Goku's flying dynamic and he has like okay, never mind. He like trains in like 1,000 times the Earth's gravity, and I was gonna go there. I was saying it's not like that where like everything gets heavy. But yeah, there is copper shielding there. It's exactly a Faraday cage, and so that keeps all the magnetism in there. That's how we can use a computer on the outside.
Yeah.
But what did freak me out going into it is that we have a stronger magnet that's more experimental. That's 7 Tesla. And they just recently got approved by FDA for medical use. But they're mostly for research use. You'll never see one in a hospital.
Yeah.
And there's like tape on the ground outside of the room because the room was built for 3 Tesla.
Yeah.
But now we're more than twice that. So there's this tape on the ground that's like circling it. And apparently that's how far the magnetic field goes. But it does have insulation and the same Faraday cage going on. So it's not like my credit card's getting wiped every time I walk in front of it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But the first time when I didn't really know what was going on, I was like, is this cool?
Yeah, right.
And probably the funnest part about that magnet is we use like non-ferrous metals for anything that needs to be metal. So there's like an aluminum stepping stool in there, and it's like super low magnetism, but because the magnet's so strong, you can actually like put the stool where it's just sitting on 2 of its legs, like
what you can like magnetically lock
and
it.
Let go, and it just slowly comes back down.
It's like it's falling through water, dude. That's fucking sick. It's just literally falling through the magnetism.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
like gravity's still pulling it down, but this magnet that's always on is interacting with it.
Yeah, his kid's still pulling on it. Yeah. That's fucking sick.
Yeah.
Well, see, again, it's what I love about this shit is like this is basic Earth principle, like magnetism, vibration. This is basic shit. A lot of people, they glaze over when they start to hear like the finer points of particle physics, and me too. I'm not a particle physicist. I don't understand 50% of the shit, but I understand like universally, for as complex as shit can get, ultimately it's all stemming from like some basic principle shit. And we're just now getting the tools to like unpack the head of your shit and be like, oh, how right were we, or how much do we have to change in order to be in line again? But
especially as we've moved from classical physics, which is like Newtonian, like apple falling from the tree, to now what Einstein theorized on the quantum realm, finding out that some of these things are true. Yeah, we're like entering a crazier era of knowing how this universe thing works. And that's, I think, the whole reason why CERN was made is like, let's just start blowing shit at each other and just like check this out. Especially, I had to learn a little bit about quantum physics for my dissertation, because I'm not a physicist, but understood things from a very classical level of resonance and measurement and things like that. But then when you get into quantum stuff, that's where things get really interesting. And now we have quantum computing being a thing. Did you
not quite there yet, but we'll
they're out there.
We got a few, but it's not at the level of accessibility where it like actually benefits.
Oh god.
But we're dude, it's only a matter of time. I think it was Kurzweil, the guy who makes keyboards. He was also like a brilliant mathematician. His theory was like the exponential rate at which technology doubles, we should have a quantum computer, or a computer that possesses the computational ability of the human mind, by around 2030. Like, you know, we're getting there. And
Yeah.
and the more intense and the more deployable a lot of like the nano processing ability that we have now, all the nano and micro shit, that's what allows us to get as much power as they're trying to get in a thing that doesn't take up an entire city block. You know, most of them, like IBM supercomputer, the shit's in it's a huge facility and it doesn't do much. You know, it's there and it survives. It's like liquid nitrogen cooled or whatever.
Yep, playing a lot of chess all the time.
Yeah, all the time, just chess.
Yeah,
debating hypotheticals, but
the whole move from like binary hard coding to like superposition is crazy.
It's going to change things considerably.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. Like, once there's a quantum computer at every collegiate science building, then shit is going to get real fucking weird. But it's just that technology isn't that deployable yet.
No.
But we'll get there. I mean, shit's only going to get smaller and faster and more capable, and we have more computing ability on our phone than they had sending fucking people to the moon. So it will get there. Like, we'll probably see it. It's probably going to happen in the next couple of years for sure. But
yeah, that reminds me of there's this spoof movie, it's so bad, but it was like Hitler never died. He just went to the moon, and these people went to go kill him.
Dude, yes.
They left their cell phone there, and then like a year later, like Hitler comes back to Earth and takes it over because he had the technology of, you know, the 70s at the time, but then got like an iPhone and just advanced their whole civilization.
I mean, a buddy and I just did a podcast on Operation Paperclip.
Ooh.
And dude, Nazis, bro, rockets, IBM, like computers. It's fair to say we got a lot. They didn't need a cell phone. They were ahead of us.
Yeah.
Sadly, they were very ahead of us. So
yeah, that's in a lot of things. Yeah, I don't think people realize too much.
They really don't. They really don't. And I have read about it a million times, and every time I read about it, I'm like, no way, that was also a part of this shit. no way. This company that still exists was just a Nazi company.
It was founded on all that people in hiding. Yeah.
You know, I tried to go one episode without talking about the Nazis, but you know, here we are.
Yeah.
Anyways,
like, oh, shit.
let's wrap it before I go any deeper in that. Dude, Michael, thank you so much for having me back on. We got to have you on again, and maybe we go into quantum physics. I don't know. Let's go. Let's get deep and heady beyond where we've already gone this evening. But
yeah, that would be fun. Or we could just go silly and talk about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. We have that. That's actually the next thing on the list. That was what happened last time. But all right, sick. Thank you again, and
thanks for having me on, man. This is great.
Yeah, stay on afterwards.
Absolutely.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast, The End, with your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva. That's obnoxious. Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva. Literally no one cares. For more Totally Legitimate Business, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Totally Legitimate Business, or add us on TikTok at TLB Pod. When will this end? Thank you for listening. Now get back to work. Move it along, buddy.